at all. I think Jamaica is accustomed to your passion and what you stand for in terms of principle.
I hope that Jamaica is more than accustomed in Iran. I hope that Jamaica will march, and I hope that Jamaica will stand up, and say enough is enough.
Remember, we've marched before. We can do it again.
Yes, me and you. Listen,
we've marched on Monsanto. We had marched
on Monsanto.
Child abuse.
Child abuse. Well, I was saying that to Shamara recently that, we've marched,
Yes, we have.
And then the question that we need to ask ourselves, after the march, then what?
What do we do? Yeah, absolutely.
After the march, then what?
Yes.
Because you made the signs when we marched on Monsanto.
Yes.
When we talk about GMOs.
Yes.
You made the signs when we're talking about Roundup.
Yes.
But and even though to this day, in America and Europe and so on, they're pulling Roundup, and so many people are being, so many people are dying, and the big lawsuits and so on. Right. We still find that here in Jamaica, we are being told that nothing is wrong with it, but you know what's happening? A lot of our teachers are dying from cancer.
Yes.
Not just the teachers.
Children too?
All right.
I've never seen so many children dying from cancer as is happening in recent times. So
that's the point.
It's a serious issue.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. And, Ryan, we have Mr. Bancroft Stanley.
Bancroft is on, okay. Morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Simpson, and your guests and your listeners.
Good morning, Mr. Stanley. I love that.
I am more the guest.
No, I'm the guest. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
All right.
No, man, it's here, Mr. Stanley. My name is Kabu. I'm co-hosting with him this morning.
Okay.
Right. So, Mr. Stanley, you're from the Parenting Commission, right?
Yes, the National
Parenting
Commission.
And
I'm a parent mentor.
You're a parent mentor. Okay.
Right, of the National Parenting Support Commission.
So you come to us this morning from the perspective of a parent, right? Are you aware of the chronic teacher shortage, or is there an overreaction to that? And if so, how is it impacting
because I tell you what, especially as it relates to specialist teachers, especially in the science areas, is that the feedback that I'm getting from parents, from the parent clubs, is that it is impacting the performance of their children, and they are very concerned. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you too, is that as time progresses, the attrition rate is getting higher and higher, and it is a grave cause for concern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you say great cause of concern,
right.
What are you most concerned about?
Experience. Because, for instance, the teachers' colleges graduating specialist teachers in certain areas and the other point about it is that when they come out, they would need that time to gather that high level of experience, because children learn differently.
Yes.
And with this kind of segment of different culture within coming out of the community and coming out of the home, because a child from, for instance, from Homestead in St. Catherine is not the same child you'll get from, for instance, even Willowdean or Oakdale, or even you go higher from a Meadowbrook. So in terms of understanding how that child learns, I think then there are traits in terms of how the child behaves. Then the teacher would understand how the child learns, coming out of the reaction from the behavior. No college can train a teacher for that.
Yes.
It's only experience can teach you to pick up those traits.
Okay. So we had Reverend Thwaites on, and you would have heard him, if you were listening, on his...
No, I was off the church, because right now I'm standing at the church gate.
Okay, so what do you... What do you think, Mr. Stanley, are the main issues that are causing our teachers to be fleeing the classrooms with such?
Well, from my perspective, I believe that compensation and also the ministry itself need to empower schools more.
What do you mean by that latter point?
I am not against we decentralizing and having regional authorities, What I'm against is that even the regional authorities have to seek permission from the ministry at the top. So automatically, where you place, you decentralize, but you're still the decentralized authority automatically becomes a figurehead.
Yes.
So if the school is not empowered to tweak the curriculum to fit its population, as I said to you before, a child coming from Homestead is a different child coming from a Garfield or a Bridgeport or a Meadowbrook or a Chancellor.
So one size don't fit all. And the point is...
And that is why I bring you back to the point of experience.
Yes.
Because these specialist teachers, if the experience is so compatible, then they're able to pick up the trait and say, okay, this child, I see coming across, this child learn better this way. So therefore, in delivering, then they will know how to treat.
Are you suggesting that teachers are frustrated because of this kind of a autocratic way of dealing with the curriculum, in that they have the responsibility to educate, but not the authority to tweak the curriculum?
Well, that's one. And as I said to you, there are a number of issues. There are a number of issues. There are the compensation, and which I believe a compensation, and people would say that, well, but teach only a teacher of the most least, and I work within the public sector, and teachers of the most least, but teachers also have the most stress.
Yeah, we know that's a myth.
And how you treat that in terms of how intriguing is the compensation. Because the first thing people is asking, is it really worth all the sacrifices I'm making to educate the nation? Or can I go somewhere else and leave a better foundation for my child? Give my child a better quality of life, because it all comes down back to you at the end of the day, because we have seen so many educators retire from the system and is unable to take care of themselves, and their children have serious strain. Some of them retire while their children is just leaving university.
And we had a discussion last week about this very same thing, retirement, and the fact that so many teachers, we were told by Mr. Comrie that a lot of public servants are ending up in the poorhouse.
Yes.
In the infirmaries,
because there's no doubt about it.
Because
there's no doubt about
retirement
it. And some are into what you call so-called low income nursing homes, which is of a very high inferior quality. On the other hand, is that they are unable to match up to their responsibilities. People is putting them outside.
Right. So I hear you, Mr. Stanley, on the curriculum. But I'd just like to say, from the perspective of a school principal, that we do have the autonomy to tweak the curriculum. So I just want to make that clarification. But I think I think the issue of indiscipline is a major concern to teachers, and some of them are very frustrated about that. And
that's where the stress. That's out of that era. The era of indiscipline is what involves the stress.
Right, because you would have remember some time ago when we were seeking to do something about punctuality for school. And how that was resisted, and a lot of people, including educational leaders, believe that punctuality is a breeding ground for unpunctuality is a breeding ground for indiscipline. Because if you are able to organize your life in terms of how punctual you can become, it affects every other aspect of your life, right? And
it conforms you to adhere to the rule of law.
Exactly.
And I want to stress a little on that, and I'll tell you why. We are from a society at this time, is that we are coming from a slavery issue, where we feel that the supervisors and managers are slave drivers. With that kind of perception, then therefore you'll have a retarded workforce. That's the very first thing.
What kind of workforce?
Retarded.
A retarded workforce. Because if I see my supervisor, who should be facilitating the process of making my job easier and to ensure I have all the necessary attributions to include my tools or other things, software, other things, to make sure that the work is done and done properly, I see him as a slave driver, then automatically the pushback from me, even the psychological effects of the pushback from me towards my supervisor, it's going to make things difficult for even the organization that I want to be a part of.
I think we should look at Professor Fred Hickling's study on personality disorder in Jamaica, because he speaks specifically to this, that 44% of Jamaicans have present with a personality disorder from severe to whatever, and from light to severe, and then also pointing to the fact that part of the presentation of this is people have problems with power. And authority and figures and so on. So I think that maybe this is where we need to go. I think we have ignored for too long this seminal study, this really critical work done by Professor Hickling and his team in how to address a lot of these issues that we're talking about here in Jamaica. You talk about the experience and so on. Mr. Simpson, as a principal, let us say you have the new science teachers coming in.
Yes.
They lack the experience. Yes. Are they more or less just reading from the text, not necessarily teaching?
No. In fact, we have some very enterprising teachers coming into the system, you know. I wouldn't flack them in that regard. We have some really brilliant, innovative teachers in the system, and many of them are the new ones.
Experience is what you gain
on the job.
So at some point...
But what some schools do, including mine, is that a new teacher coming in will be placed with a mentor. So someone within the subject area. In instances in my school where we're unable to find an in-house mentor, I've gone to the board to have them approve or getting a mentor from outside, and we give them a stipend. And that has helped us significantly. So these are some of the things that can be done. These are some of the things that we do, right? Where the problem of the chronic shortage comes in now, you're hampered because you just can't have that many persons coming in, because they're also facing those shortages.
And specifically, I'm thinking the pre-trained, for example.
The pre-trained
would be doing that.
Absolutely.
I'm concerned about the retirees too, but we talk about that. So, Mr. Stanley, you are at church now. What do you think the church can do? How can the church change as far as the crisis that Jamaica is facing now with the shortage of teachers?
Very good point. But very good question. I want to tell you, I was introduced to a parent mentor program by my church, because my church has an arm for women and family life. It's called the Mothers Union, and I learned about the National Parenting Support Commission too, through the Mothers Union.
Yes.
But what we're having right now is a social problem, a social crisis, and the need for social transformation is clear. But what is not clear is the society is willing to facilitate that transformation.
Well, you're not going to get clarity there.
Just allow me to conclude. And I tell you why I say the society, if the society is willing. There is a social aspect to the status quo. And the social aspect of the status quo is that you have a set from a certain social class that behave a certain way, and a set from a lower social class that behave a certain way. So what is happening now is that people from off of the lower strata is achieving wealth. So wealth is not really the thing anymore.
Yeah, but Mr. Stanley, suppositions won't get us very far. Just a minute. Just a minute. Mr. Stanley?
You are from.
Mr. Stanley? Just a minute, please. Yeah. Suppositions won't get us very far, right? So we know we could postulate all of that. What we're asking, and I want to add another question to that, is what is the church doing, or what can the church do? And I also want to find out, since you're representing the National Parenting Commission, is what are parents going to do? Are you going to just watch this happening, watch this playing out? What are you going to do? What can you do? What have you done? Could you answer in that way?
The lack of public education, and public education is what is driving the change within the society now.
Well, we're making an attempt now to inform the public.
If we, as mentors, with the support of community leaders, like for instance the CDC, the CBOs, the parent teachers association in the schools.
The churches.
If we are driving and getting the information to parents, having these discussions and facilitating these discussions in institutions like the church, especially the church, because I tell you what, people go to the church to gain a sense of transformation. I look forward to go to the church. That if I want to change my life, I go to church.
So how can the church
look to the church for information that will facilitate change?
Right. So how can the church help specifically with education and in particular the teacher shortage that is currently taking place?
I think the church needs to be more involved in the life of the community. First time the church was the beacon of life within the communities. First time the church was run, the schools were run by the church. So the involvement in community life were totally. Now even within the church that has schools, there is actually a separation.
Well, that's the point, you see, because your references and you're referencing, and I hear you loud and clear, classism and the role that classism is playing in maintaining the status quo in Jamaica, which is, this behavior. Because Minister Thwaites referenced this earlier, when he talked about the lack of social.
No matter how we try to downplay, it is clear. I said to you right now, what is the difference between the classes right now? Is behavior. It's not wealth anymore. In the coming of my parents, it was about wealth and behavior. But now, it's not about wealth anymore. Because a man from
and then it takes us to the point. It takes us
are no millionaire in US dollars. But the behavior of them makes you able to separate the class.
So where do we go? So you see the point that I hear, Mr. The point I hear, Mr.
That some people stay down there.
I hope you're hearing me, Mr. Stanley. So the point I'm hearing Mr. Simpson making is, all right, so we have isolated the right.
How can we fix it?
Yes.
And I believe the sharing of information to identify the need, that there is a need for a social change within the society. There is a strong need for that social change. And if we look at the correlation between poor social behavior and crime, and we know the biggest monster that we have in this country as an impediment to growth is crime. Right?
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this directly.
Finally,
let me ask you this directly as we wrap up. Would you encourage parents to make contributions to the children's school and to their education so that schools will be better able to employ teachers? Just a minute, sir. Please listen to the question. So that schools will be able to employ teachers on the one hand, and on the other hand to incentivize teachers so that they can get a better salary going home. There are some examples of that. Campion is one. They pay their teachers at a higher rate, and there are a few more examples. Would you be willing to go against the mandate that the ministry has placed to say that there should be no expectations? What parents can give a contribution, but we should not expect it and we should not ask for it.
Let me give you my stance on cost sharing.
And quickly, because we're wrapping up.
Yes, I am for cost sharing, but I am for cost sharing that you share the cost according to your ability. I believe that the assessment in assessing fees can't be one static fee across the board.
Okay,
and
we are agreed on that.
Your income should define what you pay.
Okay.
But you're in agreement. It's just the details. It's just the details of it.
And the parents have to be borrowing money, have to be doing everything to do it. The parents just can't meet, and then that should be an impediment why this child should stand up in one part line when the parents can't even qualify for part because the parents' earning is a little bit above what part.
No, we are on one with respect to pay according to your ability to pay. So that's a given. We are agreeing on that. But the greater impediment is when you have schools that are shells. The students are turning up for school, but there are no teachers to teach them. when the schools are better empowered and better resourced, so that they can employ the additional teacher, or they can incentivize a teacher who would otherwise opt to go to another foreign jurisdiction to stay, so that we can teach the children. I think that's the greater impediment. But I want to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Yes, and I support that. But I still say that we must do it in a very strategic way, that we can account for those who truly cannot.
Let the National Parenting Commission be a leader in this leaderful environment. Thank you so much that we are trying to build. Thank you.
Yes, you're warmly welcome.
Okay,
you're warmly welcome.
All right, so that was Mr. Bancroft Stanley. He parent mentor from the National Parenting Commission. This thing is complex. I notice even the way you have assembled the guests, that you recognize the complexities and the different areas that we have to...
I wanted to give a true picture of what is really happening. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to come here and pontificate about this thing, because I'm an educator, and so I would want to, argue it from my vantage point. Mm-hmm. So right across the system, from the political directorate to the classroom teacher, secondary, high school, I wanted to give that picture. And parent is an integral partner in this business of education.
Yeah, I remember many moons ago, like in the 1998, 1999, we were having many discussions here about incest and child abuse and rape and so on. And I'm going someplace with this. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we were doing this for a year or two, and somewhere in the second year, I said to myself, but no, I mean, we're talking to people from different areas, but we've never spoken to them together. Mm-hmm. Let's see how many of them we can pull together and talk about this multifaceted problem that we face, and the fact that we need that multifaceted approach. Right. Now, I remember being told then, that there was no centralized system of even reporting or anything like that. I see them putting that in place now.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and you're still hearing that there is
they've begun to put that in place, but that is 20-odd years later. And so here we are with a situation affecting our children in our classrooms. Right. You would have had, this is going on for how many years now, this chronic shortage that Mr. Thwaites just called a crisis.
Well, it was creeping maybe 3 years ago, but now it has burst the gate open. It came like a rocket missile this year. In particular,
and this is why, and I'm concerned that I don't know if the Minister of Education, if there is a place of leadership where all leaders in the leaderful context are being called in to say, how do we attack this immediately? How do we cauterize this immediately? What do we do? And how do we do it?
And I wish that I was in a position to tell you that there is. But you can also see now, Kabu, the correlation between 4 years ago, when persons were being discouraged from going to teachers' college.
Yes, you pointed that out.
And now at this point, we don't have enough teachers to fill the vacancies. So again, you see.
So you see a definite
absolutely. It is the batch of students who would have graduated this year that we are lacking.
Did they graduate? Are you saying that they did not go? They didn't graduate?
I would assume that they would not have gone, since they were discouraged from people in high places.
But we don't hear anything from the teachers' colleges saying that we have a drop-off in enrollment.
Well, you don't need to hear from them if the high school teachers and principals will say to you that we can't find any new recruits into the system. It is a given.
All right. So, but what about the migration? Would they have gone, but now overseas, as you said before, Japan, China, Korea, you name it, England, US?
So my argument is that they were always going.
They were always going.
They were always going. There is not a time that we can report to you that US wasn't coming here to do recruiting, Canada wasn't coming, UK wasn't coming, Japan wasn't coming. They were always coming.
So it's not that teachers in the system are leaving then?
It is an oversight of how we, and so one is an oversight, and two, it's poor planning or no planning at all, right? So you may train more teachers than you need. I think that is more sensible than to train less teachers than you need, Right? So we were training more
teachers. So that would fill the gap with teachers within the system.
We were training more teachers, but they were being absorbed from the international marketplace as well as within our schools.
See a teacher here, she's a producer at RFM.
I know. But
Miss Shamara Preston.
I know, but maybe RFM is paying her much better.
I don't know.
Well, I'm just guessing. But Kabu, I had a resignation this year. This week. Last week. Today is the beginning of the new week, which represented the third resignation in 5 days.
Wow!
Right, and this teacher who submitted her resignation said to me, "Mr. Simpson, teaching has become a battlefield. I love you. I've enjoyed working here, but I can't do it anymore."
A battlefield.
So students are allowed to come to school whatever time, we do not feel empowered. The teachers do not feel empowered. They are not encouraged.
I understand that. So you see, that's the thing is that, and this is what I was saying earlier, that if you have the responsibility to put out the best, to at the end of the day graduate the best, and you do not have the authority to ensure that everything is in place for that to happen, then you are you're on a battlefield, and at some point it is going to be you or the battlefield. Yeah,
and self-preservation
is always a key.
It's always going to be that.
And this is why a lot of teachers are leaving.
Yeah, well, that is certainly one very good example that I have, and I'm sharing it.
I know because I've had teachers say to me that why is the media not paying more attention to especially to what's happening in the classrooms now? And I've had teachers talk to me specifically about young men.
And I thank you for this space, Kabu, because maybe you're the only one doing it too.
Not.
Well, maybe. There is this public anti-teacher sentiment in the system, and it is largely because of the politicking and the way we've been treated in the public space without our response too. I think we should take some of the blame. But if we really understand the job of the teachers and what we have to do and what we have to go through,
and what you face every day,
we would take a different perspective. And so I read one of your posts on social media when the unfortunate situation happened at Pembroke, and I was really very touched and moved that someone in media was seeing it that way.
I remember what I said, but I know how I saw it, and I still see it that way.
Yes,
because you see, I am aware of the battlefield, because you see, it's part. Ronnie Thwaites talked about a lack of social capital.
Yeah.
So what we have in the classroom is no different from what we have in the traffic,
and it can't be
no different from what we have in the public spaces.
And it can't be, because if it is different, it would be unreal.
It would be unreal. Yes. So that it's a very our culture has become a culture of anger,
crude and crass,
and vulgarity, and so that and lack of respect.
Respect for self, respect for others, respect for authority.
Respect for authority. I've spoken to members of the Pan-African community and Dr. Arthur Green in particular, who I interviewed a few weeks ago, who said to me, we're talking about teaching Spanish, teaching a Chinese language, Mandarin, and so on. But basically, we also need to teach an African language in school. And this is why I agree with him. I had a discussion on this program a few years ago with Professor Tunde Biwaji and his wife. And she's a linguist. And we were talking about African languages and what we, African Jamaicans, lost in the voyage, in the transatlantic voyage.
Right.
And, I listened to her say, there is in Yoruba or other African languages, for example, inbuilt in the words are the prescriptions as to how you are to behave.
Yes.
So that when you say grandmother in Yoruba or Tree or any other Akan language, it tells you what to do
Yeah.
So the word itself is not just bare.
Yeah.
It carries so much energy with it.
Yeah.
And so, and a prescription as to how you are to treat this person who you're calling grandmother. So that I'm thinking that if we have lost that,
yes.
then we have lost a serious part of our culture.
Exactly.
So when you see an elder, if you notice that in African traditions, and even now, I'm talking about traditions, but now current culture, that when a younger woman, say the younger woman is 65, meets an older woman who is, say, 80, she goes down in a kind of, it's not a courtesy, goes down and touches the earth.
Right.
It is a kind of a respect
yes.
to the elder.
Yes.
I'm saying that to say that we have lost so much.
Yes.
Our culture, we have lost so much that our young children, the language itself, the vulgar spaces in which we are existing and barely existing contributes to our behavior.
Yes.
in the classroom and in the traffic and wherever else.
Yes.
So even while we talk about shortage of teachers, teacher migration,
yes.
does it make sense?
We have to confront those issues too. Yes.
To look at the cultural issues.
Absolutely, of course it does. And Kabu, what we could have preserved within the space called education has been eroded by virtue of the disrespect, the blatant public disrespect of educators almost on a daily basis for maybe a 3-year period consistently.
How did we allow that to continue?
Well,
we're all complicit in this.
I keep asking myself.
How
right?
did we allow that? Because I heard that.
Yes, we got a battering.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so by virtue of that, the students and parents, almost automatically take it onto themselves as well.
Yeah, I know. You see, we have a tendency in Jamaica to put each other down in a serious way instead of helping each other. And we generalize too much. Like, for example, the taxi driver who carries me around sometimes, he says, sometimes, him get bad treatment on the road. Not all taxi drivers are the same thing. And everybody said taxi driver. Yeah. And so that they're all painted with the very same brush. I have the problem on the road. I see the same thing with teachers. The teacher this and the teacher that, and they must get performance-based pay. And they get too much holiday.
And every time you raise the issue of increased remuneration for teachers, somebody tacks onto that about more training and accountability. So is it that we have been turning a blind eye to accountability and training all the time? Kabu.
So what about the training for the members of parliament who are asking for salary increase? Sorry.
Precisely. Yeah. For example, a member of parliament, there is no minimum qualification requirement to be a member of parliament.
No, you don't even have to read.
Right. And
that's a terrible situation.
And so you can't dumb down educators and expect that you're going to have a thriving society. It cannot happen. So when people do not want educators to use media, for example, to speak about issues that are affecting teaching and learning, that is not a progressive society.
It is not a progressive society.
When people like me will face all sorts of vindictiveness, all sorts of attack for appearing on a program like this, or writing an article in the paper, or appearing on TV to speak about issues relating to education, that too is part and parcel of the problem that we have.
Right, I didn't know that was happening to you, but you see, speak truth to power and continue to speak truth to power. Yes. And if I say anything to you today as me being your mentor, right? This is the one thing I'll say, because I have the same kind of problem to deal with, which is that when you speak truth, you are crucified for it. But we have to know. If we do not know, we have to name the condition to treat the condition. We're not guessing and spelling. We're being told. As a matter of fact, Ryan said, talk to Mr. Thwaites, who is a former education minister, talk to the guests that we're carrying in, and let us see that if I am overreacting, that is Ryan. But you were saying it's a chronic problem. When Ronnie Thwaites came on, he said it was a crisis.
Yes.
It's an immediate crisis.
Yes.
So if we're in a crisis of a shortage of teachers in schools, of a lack of social capital in schools, of schools being battlefields that teachers are afraid to go in, then who is addressing the crisis.
They're running away from breathlessly. Breathlessly. They're running away from the classroom space. They're taking up teaching positions in other jurisdictions that are not really great salaries. But they consider the conditions within which they work to be more tolerable. And we have to find a way. We can't ignore it any longer. We have to find a way now to create a system. For example, the Ministry of National Security received a budget that is maybe 10 times larger than they had some years ago, just a few years ago. And we keep making the argument that we can't pay teachers more. You know?
Right, because
they are running away from
it's
the
a deliberate plan, though, you know. It's deliberate, and this is how I read it. That, you see, because we're a service industry, and we cannot, too many of our people can't be brilliant and going out and thinking for themselves, you know. We have to, the classrooms have to be open back, just send the children, they come to the front door and they go through the back door and they go right on the slave ships, which is a hotel.
Yeah.
The plantations, the all-inclusive hotels. So this is what they want us to train our students for. So we don't want them too bright. Just enough, maybe 2 or 3 CXCs, and if 2, then no matter. And we send them straight. We shuttle them straight into the service industry. So if it's not the tourism, and the biggest part is the tourism industry. And this is why I'm saying, I think the Minister of Tourism, what's his name again? Ed Bartlett.
Yes.
I think Ed Bartlett is who Ed Bartlett is. I don't think him putting on anything. I think he's that kind of passionate person about anything that he's doing. I think he's done brilliantly for tourists, not for Jamaicans, for tourists, period. That is it. Brilliantly for tourists. And I would say move Ed Bartlett from tourism to education and make us see what him do for Jamaicans. That is all may I say. Take it, because we need an Ed Bartlett, you know, in the Ministry of Education. And we need an Ed Bartlett just for Jamaican people. But I'm saying that shift him to Ministry of Education and Suendo. You're not surprised at Suendo, kind of listen to the teachers, them, that's one. He would call the people around him who know that's two, because we see, that's what he does, you know. That's what he does with the tourism industry. Yes. So the tourism industry... He consults. Him consult. The tourism industry is an example of an industry, the ministry, of an example of a ministry that is running... That
is running
very well.
Yes.
Not for Jamaicans, you know.
Yeah, well, okay.
Against Jamaicans.
Yes. But we are giving him credit where it is due.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So put him now in charge of something for Jamaicans and let us see what he does with it. Because this is really a crisis. This is a shame. Not many of us are talking about it, but we are to begin to. If it's our children, you know, is our future. And if we have this kind of chronic shortage in the classroom, it's going to be worse than it currently is. Because we are already saying that it is bad. But can you imagine what's going to happen when we are feeling the effects of this in another 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
So if we have school improvement plans targeting certain objectives for the next 3 years or the next 5 years, we basically now have to adjust it.
Yes.
You know, because
you're forced to adjust it.
You're forced to adjust it.
All right, we're standing by for our next guest. We hope to speak. Let me know who we have on the line, please. Our friend from Baltimore is also here, because every year this time we would be, you know, in the spot, in the place, but we're here in the studio. And Ras Jomo is here, so he probably can contribute to this conversation, I'm quite sure, from a perspective of what is being done in, say, Baltimore. He's been coming back and forth to Jamaica. He is a Jamaican. He's a radio presenter, and can probably help us to understand, you know, through his lenses, how he sees things right here. So, but at the end of the day, this is a situation, we're discussing it this morning. There's a crisis. Teacher migration in Jamaica is a crisis.
Yes.
We've just heard that from former Education Minister Ronnie Thwaites. We're hearing that from Principal Ryan Simpson. We heard that from Bancroft Stanley, who is from the National Parenting Commission. Not quite sure what the others are going to say when they come on, but we are waiting to speak to Owen Speed, who is the president of the JTA. We're also going to be speaking with Patricia Sutherland, Howard Aarons, and Howard Aarons is on the line. Let's do this quickly and come right back. Now, 12 minutes after 8 o'clock, we're getting so many responses from teachers across Jamaica. We hope that we'll be able to open the phone lines, Rayon, to hear from some of them. But teachers are writing in like crazy, responding to what they're hearing here. And in a little while, I'll read what I can. Here is one from Everton Wallace. He says, "Good morning, Kabu. As an educator, why teachers are leaving is the way they are treated by ministry, principals at large, politics for appointment, salaries, etc." And he says that we have to do a part 2, 3, 4, 5 to this program. That's what. So,
that's a hint,
Yeah, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
that's a hint,
right? And I'm hearing also from. I'm going to read the others in a little while. Here's a teacher saying, the minister sends down their model like the UK and expect teachers to carry out the model with nothing to carry out the model, knowing the condition teachers work under. Gangs in school, students unwilling to conform, not enough material, overcrowding, disrespect of students and teachers, and the ministry is all aware of this. She says that schools have to be prepared for the massive migration that will take place, especially now that they are more aware that there's nothing to the pension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would add to that teachers are now having to contribute to their own pension, which was not previously the case.
Oh, but I had that discussion Sunday. I never heard that part, eh?
Well,
I don't think Mr. Comrie said that. Teachers are now going to have to contribute to their own pension?
Well,
in what way?
We have started.
In what way? What do you mean contribute to your own pension?
Well, what used to happen is that the government would pay...
the pension, which is how we know it, yes.
Right. But part of the and it's a negotiated settlement, so I'm not complaining.
Teachers agree to it.
Right. So.
No, but the teacher union, them sell out the teachers them all the time.
No, I wouldn't agree with
No,
that.
It's true. No. I have been following some stuff here. You don't have to agree, Rayon. I mean, I'm just your guest here. You shouldn't call me on your program.
No, of course. But you would appreciate that I have the right to agree.
To disagree. Right, so let me just say, Rayon is disagreeing with me. But I remember that salary negotiation from a few years ago when the teachers stood up. Yeah. And the president of the JTA, I can't remember his name now, but he ended up being a senator. And he stood up with them. And I don't know what happened. And Joma from Baltimore, welcome to the space. I'm just telling you, somewhere along the line, I don't know what happened, and I don't want to cast any aspiration. But all of a sudden, he sold out the teachers.
No president is able to do that based on the way the organization is structured. Mm-hmm. So if the president appeared to have changed his or her mind midstream, it would be based on the feedback that they would have gotten from the membership.
With a handful of them. We know it works, It's like the Fisherman's Beach down in Ochi, where all you have to do is get to 1 or 2 or 3 people, and then before you know it, all negotiations fall down.
No, that's not how it works in the JTA, though, I have to tell you. Every single
So why
claim.
were so many teachers angry, Rayon? Why did teachers rise up the way they rise up to say no?
Well, you can't remember the particular case, so I can't speak intelligently to it. But what I can say
I don't want to, I don't have any proof of it. But we saw it. It played out
What I can say to you, though, is that sometimes teachers neglect to participate in the system that is there and would on the back end complain about but no president no president is able,
has the authority to sell out no teacher
is able to do so by virtue of negotiation, because
I know how politics run.
Yes,
and you know how politics run.
Yes.
And politics run right in the middle of that. Pension taken, this is another teacher saying, pension taken out of the tiny salary.
Yes. So again, I like when persons are able to call in, text in, and to agree or maybe disagree. Yeah. But the point is,
Let me go to the WhatsApp, yes.
I'm not just saying it without being able to substantiate it, and I'm happy for my colleague who texted in to say so.
All right. So our WhatsApp number is 876-838-2405. That's 838-2405. You can send your questions, comments, and so on. And I know we have quite a few here, let me just see. Go on, talk, Rayon.
Yeah, well, please share them with us because that's going to be interesting. I mean, it is always good to hear from the members, and I'm happy that we are availing this space to them. One did request that we have a part 2, 3, 4,
and 5.
So we will have some discussions after the program.
Here's a message. Good morning. I think we do we have somebody online? I thought we had Mr. Howard Aarons online. I'm not sure. Before I read that, is he there? Mr. Aarons? No. All right. Let me just welcome you to this. Oh, yes, I think he's coming back. Good morning, Master Jomo. How are you doing?
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Bless everyone listening. And we meet in Baltimore sometimes, but I'm a Buffalo soldier.
Yes,
you're
Buffalo. Yeah. Oh, Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore
I said Baltimore, but you're Buffalo.
Well, we were in Baltimore.
We were in Baltimore the last time.
Right.
You see that?
But it's good. We're all over.
Buffalo.
We're all over.
All right. So you're coming in from a salute.
Yes.
Right. We'll talk about that in a little while. Let's just go to Mr. Howard Aarons, who's on the line.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Aarons.
Morning, sir. Morning to your panelists.
Good morning, Mr. Aarons. How are you doing?
Yes.
I'm doing great.
So thank you for joining us this morning. You're joining us from the primary system. Is that so?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you able to say that this is a problem that is facing the primary sector, or is it just at the secondary level or elsewhere?
No, man. Most certainly it's a problem facing the education system at all levels.
Is it affecting your school in particular? Do you have a shortage of teacher in your particular school?
Well, we have a teacher migrating, but right now the shortage, I'm not saying that we really have a shortage, because our principal in his wisdom has probably the vision and put things in place to mitigate that problem. But we have our teachers leaving our school.
So could it be then that the schools that are facing a shortage is because of principals who are not imaginative enough, who did not put the things in place?
No. I would not say so, because some teachers are not aware that would not be able to inform the school beforehand that they are leaving, because they are not sure yet that they are until they get the package, and sometimes it's late.
Yes,
that they do so. The principals would not be aware before, and therefore could not probably put things in place before the teacher leaves, and then when they are made aware, that's when the problem occurs. I would say it's a problem on the part of the principals.
Okay. Help us to understand, Mr. Aarons, from a practical point of view, how teacher shortage will affect a classroom space in a primary school. So, for example, you have your full complement of teachers and suddenly you don't have that many teachers anymore. What are the stress factors involved in that when you have to substitute for other teachers? How are the students impacted? Could you give us some examples of that?
Well, I'm not sure if your listeners are aware, but unlike the high schools, a primary school teacher stays with the students for the entire day. We don't have subject teaching.
So you have one teacher to one classroom.
Is not at school, and then you have to substitute. It means either of two things. You're going to be going from classroom to classroom, or you're going to be sharing the children in classrooms that are already packed and overcrowded. So just imagine the stress factor when you have your class set of students and then to take on others. So the problem is probably, I wouldn't say it is more acute, but it certainly is grave at the primary school system.
Wow. So are you able to make an intelligent guess as to why the teachers are leaving the system with such great abundance?
Well, it will be more than an intelligent guess, It is information that will be received, so it's anecdotal evidence. Based on what I've heard from my colleagues, the fact is that the compensation package is probably the primary reason why they leave.
Kabu,
and then
we've heard that about the fourth time now since morning.
Yes.
Then the conditions of service would be the other main reason they leave. The fact is that after studying for a number of years and then being termed professionals, and to come work in a system where you have poor lighting, you have persons, the noise level, because in some classes they still have blackboard parking in them. You are open to the elements because some classes, and I visited some schools and you have some classes don't even have windows at what is supposed to be was cut out for a window. There is no door at what was cut out for a door. Just imagine working in conditions like that with 40 and 50.
You know, so I'm feeling very, very sad. I'm choked up. I'd really, honestly, I'm getting a bit emotional because I am looking at the figures coming out of the Auditor General's report. What happened at the CMU and by extension, the Ministry of Education. So much money's gone into a boat party, gone into paying back for bracelet, gone into paying back for cologne, shuttled after to 22 among 22 accounts, gone into people's personal pockets. And nobody, why are we standing here? Why have we not taken to the streets in our numbers and said justice? I don't know if it's March we need for March. I honestly am at a loss just listening to everyone coming into this space. Remuneration, bad working conditions, teachers leaving because the classroom a battlefield, teachers paying pension out of them tiny salary. Salary negotiation now move from 2 years to 4 years. It is slavery. And at the same time, we have the Speaker of the House refusing to table the Auditor General's report. You know, and we are hearing so much about so much monies stolen through the Ministry of Education. And now we're hearing this. You know, I'm done. I'm done. I really cannot believe us as a people, that we're not marching in the streets, that we're not banning with belly. And stop about wearing black. We must wear red. Tie with head with the red, tie with belly with red, tie with foot with red, and go out. They go do something. Because this is ridiculous. This is not just a CMU, you know, and it's not just a Ministry of Education. There is corruption in government at many levels. And teachers are migrating. Teachers are dying in poor houses in Jamaica. And we are okay with that.
And the students are suffering because if they are not...
And we are okay with that?
We can't be. And I think that is the reason you and I are on the program this morning. And we must make the point, you know, that this is not about politics for us. This is about Jamaica. This is about the children, and this is about education. You know, because we know that education is still the main way for anybody to pull themselves up. You know, and so we have to take this business seriously. We can't turn a blind eye to it anymore.
We can't.
We have become immune as a society and as a country, you know, to many of these things that are happening. Some of us who are maybe not immune, have become afraid. Some of us have been victimized. Some of us have been pushed into corners, right? Whether it is perceived or it is real. But these are the fear factor out there. And all of us can't just play dumb and roll over. There are persons there are educators whose social media pages are policed daily.
By who?
By politicians, by their surrogates, by educators too, by parents, by sympathizers and empathizers of organizations and parties.
You see, the tribalism has brought us to this place. Political tribalism and garrison politics, bad manism in politics, have brought us to this place where this is a perennial problem It comes up and it goes down, and it comes up and it goes down. And now we have teachers crying out from the bellies, from the bowels of the classrooms. And the question is, who is listening? Who is listening, and who's going to make the change? Mr. Aarons, I hear you saying it's compensation and unmanageable classrooms and poor working conditions. Can I tell you, everybody has said that since this morning.
Yes.
And it would appear to me that the powers that be are tone deaf to the cries.
And they blame the teachers, This is where the problem is.
But
they blame the teachers.
But I say to you, all you have to do is listen to even the persons who are pretending to be sensitive to the cause. If they talk about salary increase, they immediately append to that. Accountability. Pay by performance.
But we're not hearing that for the politicians.
We're not hearing that from many.
So all the teachers have to be accountable. Nobody else. Councillors don't have to be accountable.
We're not hearing that from others.
What happened to the parish? What they call the fund? What then give the councillors them, or the members of parliament? There's a fund.
Yes. The
Member of Parliament fund.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
CDF,
who are policing? CDF. Who are policing all of that?
Constituency development.
So, while our children die. Now, Mr. Aarons, I don't know. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I think as a country, we need to seriously look at how we fund education. And I know much has been said about it, but probably little has been done. Because much of the funding that they put in, I'm not sure it goes. But we really need to look at how we fund it. We need to look at the persons who will make the greatest impact on the system. And I'm talking about our teachers, not our administrators. Certainly I'm not talking about the administrators of the school, but within the ministries, we need to make sure that the funding goes to where it really matters. If the teachers are not satisfied if they are drained.
Mr. Aarons, Mr. Aarons, you carry me from one emotion to the next. Make sure the funding go where it really matters. The funding gone into 22 accounts.
I'm not sure.
Right? Then you don't read the Auditor General report.
Maybe he hasn't read it.
We want every single cent of that money, of those monies, taken from the people's pockets through the CMU and the Ministry of Education to be returned. We want every single dollar to be returned to help to pay teachers' salaries. And look here, I'm not going to say what I want to say. I can just do that thing here.